Welcome then to the main group of riders. This Eurosport's coverage of the 10th stage of the Tour de France, going down from Luxembourg to Strasbourg. Today these riders covering 217 kilometres, and if you think they're just meandering along, having a day off after yesterday's exciting time trial, you couldn't be far wrong. We've had action all the way, and as you join us, a little group here up at the front of the main field have reformed following a massive attack which started at about 140 kilometres had been covered. So this little breakaway group we've got here again. You can see Perini up there, Pondriest up there. They've nipped across some of these riders because we've had to begin with an 11-man group out at the front, which brought absolute consternation. Here at the back, I think Taboli's wondering what on earth is going on. That's number 19 for the Gatorade team. And we're now having a quick look at Jean-Cyril Robin, one of the young riders from Castorama, who's off on his own at the moment. Phil, let me tell you who they hounded down so that you can get your breath back, as we've been doing, because absolutely tremendous attack just went on after the 140 kilometre mark. An early attack went away with Jarman and Andro from the Motorola team, Jarman from Ariel Steer. Perini joined them from Carrera. Van Hooijdonk was there as well. At one time, Duke Lasalle was up there, but he drifted back off again, suffering, I think, from the crash that he had earlier on when he came down with Zuller, a big one that happened early on in the race. But I think there's nobody really badly hurt. They're up and running. But in that group then, Marc Madio was away, Pondriest as well, Uriata Zabello, who was sent up on behalf of Benesto to keep an eye on the thing, and Tibaldi, who we'd just seen with this little group at the front. Well, they also had Van Aert with them, and none of those riders really, after the 140 kilometre mark, were any great threat to the big boys. But a little chasing group of 5 men prized themselves away. What was a sort of 35-yard lead as far as the 9 men was concerned, drifted a bit further, and then suddenly between them, another 5-man group found themselves at the front. Alcala was there from PDM, Jens Hepner having yet another go for Telecom, and Luc Leblanc for the Castorama team. And that seemed reasonably enough, but up came Bunyo and Roche. They jumped across, got in there, and started to drive the 5. They did so fast, they went straight through, leaving the other 3 gasping, and went across and caught the leading 9. So we had 11 men away, and most interesting of all, the fact that Bunyo and Roche had joined up, and they started to wind this lot up. Well, Perini was going to help Roche, certainly. Tibaldi, who was up there for Gatorade, was going to help. Here we see Van Hooijdonk. He was doing little or nothing to aid it. Perini on the far side was driving the thing along. Pondriest in the group didn't want to help either, so we had quite an interesting setup going on, and Bunyo and Roche decided in the end, when the bunch really went bananas, they got to 1 minute and 5 seconds away from the main field that we're looking at now, and Benesto on the front were just burning up the rubber. They were on the front going like stink with the number 1 in the race, Indrain, who really showed his hand yesterday in the time trial, just sat about 8th or 9th back in the main group, letting the Benesto riders really charge on, which helps this lad in the yellow jersey, by the way, because there you see Bunyo back in the group in the rainbow jersey. What happened, that 1 minute and 5 seconds lead they had, 150 kilometres, they were going so fast, rocketing along. The gap came down 50, 40, 30. Look there at Adrie van der Poel in the pack. And then when Bunyo looked round and realised they were going to get caught, he tried to go along this group of 11 because only Bunyo, Roche, Perini and the other rider, Tibaldi, were doing anything. I feel like Pondriest and that just weren't taking part at all. So he sort of sat up, then tried to get them going again, and all this disrupted the activity, and whomp, just like a flea jumping on the back of a dog, the peloton was on them. And as they caught them, these other riders that had been doing nothing to help Bunyo, nothing to help Roche, suddenly took off down the road. So now we've got this other little group out there down the road, including some of the people that were in that early breakaway. This is one man who got across. He wasn't in the early break, but he jumped across to join them. That's young Robin for the Castorama team. So Robin has decided to clop off the front of this one. And we're getting down now well inside, well, there's some 40-odd kilometres to go towards the end of the race. And the rest of this field don't seem to be too bothered now. They've got Roche and Bunyo back into the pack. Looking at the yellow jersey there, Pasqualino coming into the stage today. Pasqualino's lead on the general classification. If you haven't caught up with your papers so far, see where's the yellow jersey down there, number 1, 23rd on the points at the moment. Well, he at the moment, his lead following the time trial is just a slender 1 minute 27 seconds from Miguel Indurain. So the RMO rider looking to see where, oh, there's one of his team mates just a bit further across from him. I'm sure they're not going to be too far away from helping him. Actually, Mosse had to drift back to the mechanics about half an hour ago. He got something wrong with his bike, so he went back and got himself sorted. And Mosse, I'm pretty certain yesterday in that time trial, he soft-tapped a bit to stay there to be able to look after his teammate today. On this rolling stage, we've had just what you might call an undulating stage, which has had a lot of activity. We had 4 fourth category climbs, or we will have. We've had 3 of them so far. There's 1 more yet to come. And over these fourth category climbs that we've already had on the way down to here, we had one at Côte de Montenach, another one at Côte de Buchwald, and then one at the Côte de Valmont. Well, each of those climbs we've had so far, Chiapucci has been, as you'd expect, challenging. There weren't many points at stake because they're only fourth category climbs, but Chiapucci was always there and determined to get himself in. And in fact, what he's done now is he pinched the polka dot jersey off Varank. I don't think Varank can get it because at the moment Chiapucci has got 3 points lead on the King of the Mountains. This group here with 36 seconds now. I think that Roche and Bugno are regretting the way they sat up, but of course I think the Peloton, once they know they got the 2 main contenders back in again, were quite happy to let that little group reform at the front. So a group now, well over 1 minute lead they've got, so that is quite handy as far as they're concerned. But I think by the way this main field is beginning to wind it up now that they've decided to pull them back in. And perhaps we're going to see, for the first time in this race, the sprinters massing at the front. Well, dear me, we've been waiting for this confrontation of the heavy gang ever since this race started. Here we are, stage 10, and we haven't had a bunch sprint finish yet. Well, of course, one of the main contenders for the sprint awards in the charge for the line at the end of the stage, if the bunch comes in together, Cipollini is out of the tour. He's retired. He said he was absolutely exhausted a couple of days ago. I see Jelle Neidem coming forward here. Look at all the pink jerseys of Once on the front, driving it along. Zuller, the rider earlier on, crashed, but rejoined. But the reason they're playing along like this one is that Jalabert was wearing the green jersey as king of the sprints. He had the green jersey on the points competition, but we've been having special sprints coming along today as we're back up there with the lead, and Fondrest having a little chat and getting something to drink off the neutral service vehicle. Well, not to my knowledge, the neutral service carry drink normally for the riders, but they've obviously found a little fizzy pop here for him to take on the way through. So there we have Van Hooijdonk at the back, so we're up with that group. Most of these riders then are the ones that were just with the Roche and Bugno group earlier on, and they were sensible enough, I think, just to keep the pressure on when the bunch closed down on them, and Roche and Bugno decided one thing they got to do is sit up and go back into the main group, which allowed this little lot then. Robin was the only one that jumped across it, and going back to that king of the sprints thing, the old points, the green jersey. Museu is in the lead now, by the way, by 4 points. On the sprints we've had so far, he's been able to screw Jalabert. I'll tell you in just a moment exactly how he's done it, because we're going to take a short break. But don't go away, because this race is very much in the balance.
The new camcorder from Panasonic has more muscle than others. A 16 times digital zoom, a hi-fi stereo microphone, the Super VHS-C system, and a digital image stabilizer. And all of this weighs only 800 grams. The S7, new from Panasonic.
It was in a bar 4 years ago, or 5. She came in. I ordered a buckler. She was perfect. A brunette. No, a blonde. Dressed in red. No, blue. Oh, I forget. But I do remember the beer. Its coolness, its taste, its name. Buckler. Buckler beer. So much taste you won't miss the alcohol.
And a lonely ride here for Robin And it said Moto 2 up there. I've been trying to see exactly where he is in connection with this, because normal Moto 1 goes with the leading group, so he must be wedged between this lot here with the pink jersey on the front, massing to try and get up there, because in the points championship, the green jersey, Museo now having gone into the lead by 4 points over Jalabert. On the King of the Mountains, Chiappucci now has 87 points. Varonk has 84 points. He's 3 points back now. Ciccoli is in third place, but Ciccoli is only 56 points, so he's not really in contention at the moment. We'll have to wait, I think, till we get into the big mountains before we really see him trying to improve his position. So well done to Chiappucci, very active little chap today. He took the first of the mountain climbs. He then took second place on the second of the climbs. Varenk actually tried to get past him on the first time and managed to stay into second place, but Chiappucci took the second climb in second place, and the third climb of the day, he rocketed over in first place, so that's given him those vital 3 points lead now on the King of the Mountains. We've got a fourth category climb coming up at the Côte de Vilgathem, but I don't think that that main pack are going to catch them, so the points will go to that little bunch we've got in front, and that then will mean that the King of the Mountains, provided of course they stay away, Chiappucci can be happy looking forward to getting the polka dot jersey. Look at this massive crowd then have turned out to see the riders through. Of course, in France, Bastille Day, the 14th of July, there's been parades in Paris, and there's been a great time had by one and all. And last night there were fireworks going on, and everybody was very elated to celebrate the oncoming of the 14th of July, which is what we got today, a national holiday. And consequently, the French are getting a big round of applause, and with the French leading the race overall, the yellow jersey of Pascal Lino still on the shoulders of the Alamo rider. It looks like Robin, in fact, he's going to be pulled back in, so he was wedged between those leading group and the main group, but now he's going to find himself hauled back in again, and that will be that as far as he's concerned. So out of Luxembourg today, down into Strasbourg, through France, everybody out along here to see this great race. And look at the pink jerseys steaming along. Well, they've got to catch that leading group, then they've got to get Jalabert passed over the line in first spot. We're looking at a fine action shot then of Deir Sabala for the Once team. Moving through now, next to go, that's Neil Stevens on those unusual look bicycles. Neil Stevens, who in one of the Kellogg City Centre race in England down in Cardiff, bounced down onto the road in the darkness one night when it was a very nasty evening, and he turned sharply into a bend. His front wheel went away from him on a slippy part over some white lines, and the spark lit up the whole of the street, and that was seen on telly for many, many weeks afterwards. But Neil back in here again. He's a very redoubtable little lad. In fact, a lot of Australians in these teams at the moment trying very hard indeed, and certainly Neil Stevens with Stephen Hodge in the Once team, quite a driving force of domestics, keeping this green jersey open perhaps for Jalabert, but he's got to get up to this group here, because the points will be split amongst these riders rather than that group behind. But the sprint doesn't come until we get to 203 kilometres will have been covered. In fact, so that'll only give 14 kilometres from the end, and they've got a lot of work if they're going to catch up with this little group. So Cavalli there not aiding this one, sitting on the back, because he's a teammate of Gianni Bugno. Nor also aiding this at the moment, number 3 sitting in there is Jean-Francois Bernard, is it? I thought it was 9. I'm sure I've got the wrong bloke away at the moment. It isn't Jeff by the looks of it. As Fondriest looks back down, Van Hooijdonk goes back through. Well, the Mavic service car is coming through. That one says to me the gap is now less than 30 seconds. Fondriest is looking back. You can see all the motorcyclists moving through, and the chase by the Once team seems, in fact, to have worked. But on the top here, at 196 kilometres, that means that the King of the Mountains, the polka dot jersey, certainly will go to Chiappucci, because his main adversary, Varonk, was not able to get up, and he anyway scored points on that occasion. There goes Perini, and Fondres is looking back, wondering if he should position. Well, it still looks a good 30 seconds. We'll have to get our radio going to see what's happening out down the main group at the moment. Well, Fondres is certainly concerned. I'm not sure whether he's wondering about where that main group has gone through from behind, or whether he wants to talk to his team car, which won't be allowed to come up at all whilst this group here of Fondres, Yaman, Madio, Van Hooijdonk, Perini are allowed to get away like this. So there is Jarman, previous Swiss national champion, stage winner in the Tour of Switzerland in the Adios Steer colours. Oh, he's gone back on the front again, so somehow it looks as if, as we go up here now to the top of that climb, the points certainly not going to be taken as far as Veronika's concerned. So Kipwood should be happy with that one then, as Fondriest drives over the top. Massive crowd turned out then to see them on this climb up towards the final climb of the day, marked yet again, and that certainly looks to me as if Lilholt, is he going to try and get across them? Well, that chase from the main group, I'd have thought it made it very difficult indeed for one man to get out and have a go on his own, but Soren Lilholt, who fell off the other day, and Alan Piper said to me the only thing that was hurt actually was his pride when he fell down. Well, here he is then going up on his own. Alan's been suffering with diarrhoea. If you saw some of the results in the British papers, on the Continental papers, and wondered why Alan Piper was 179th yesterday in the time trial at 18 minutes and 46 seconds, it was because Alan has got some tummy bug and he wasn't very well, so he just had to go around inside the time limit, which he did on what was a very, very fast day indeed in that time trial. All the group here together, and still that breakaway in front. The gap then only about 30 seconds still. So the chance of winning this stage lies with these people. I've said that we perhaps would get the big sprinters in. I suppose really that Fondriest was looking back to see if his team manager was coming up for a bit of instructions, because Fondriest is fit enough, I think, probably to drive this one along, but he might get his ear cuffed if he does just that and stops there. He's looking back again, because with Ludwig, their key sprinter, then undoubtedly 25 seconds, he's come down a little bit. He still is a bit doubtful, I think, about what he should do at the moment. And Marc Madiot just gone through there. And to an extent then, Fondriest, I can understand his concern about this little breakaway at the moment, because they want Ludwig, in fact, to get in contention for a sprint, and this looks to me like one day could well happen. And he keeps going back then to look back in the distance, does Fondriest. If I suppose, and they get into around about 10 kilometres to go, there's no sign of that group coming up from behind, then undoubtedly he may still keep going. But of course, Tibaldi sitting at the back has got a very, very fast and vicious sprint indeed, so he might in fact be taking trouble up and not get the stage victory himself. Look at the way that bunch is going. And the sprint at the 203 kilometre point, they've come over the top of the fourth category climb, which was 21 kilometres to go, and the sprint at Weversheim is at 14 kilometres to go. So they've just got these 6 kilometres from here that you're looking at now for the Onse team to put Jalabert in with a chance of a sprint for it. So the 6, 4 and 2 are the points when they get there. At the moment he is in arrears by 4 points to Mazzeo, so he's got to get first, and Mazzeo's got to finish third or less for him to have any chance of keeping that green jersey. A lot of action today. Stay with us, please, on Eurosport. Welcome back. This group of riders here heading on down in towards Strasbourg, a town that we've not been to on the tour since 1988, and that was when Jérôme Simon won the stage. Is one of this, or are one of these riders here going to get the stage today? The gap is still hovering around about 20 seconds, and they're coming up towards that sprint. I can see the boards there, so that has been a wasted chase then as far as the Onse team have been concerned. We're now through the sprint point. 203 kilometres have been covered, and we've now just got some 14 kilometres to go towards the finish, and Perini is working away at the front. They eased a bit there going underneath that banner, and Perini has plopped off yet again. So the Carrera team, who in fact he's only just managed to get a little bit towards the front, and as ever then the Venesto rider here, Uriarte Zubero, has moved forward to try and control the thing. That Venesto rider will, I think, try and put the lid on it. He just went through then. Marc Madiot taking over, winner of the Paris-Roubaix a couple of years ago. There we go, Jarman on the front. There goes Fondriest, ex-world champion. There goes Van Hooijdonk, twice winner of the Tour of Flanders. Tibaldi going through, and Frankie Andro there, Perini, and the back Van Aert, who is not contributing at all at the moment. So those are our leading group of riders, the leftovers, if you want to call it that, since Roche and Munoz sat up and decided after 180 kilometres have been covered that they would go back into the main group. So this little group now has been out for something like 20 kilometres on its own, always more or less in sight of the main field, which has got some very, very tired legs indeed. That time trial we had yesterday knocked the stuffing out of some of the top riders, and if you haven't caught up with the result, the average speed of Indurain yesterday in the time trial was 49 kilometres per hour. That's a fraction over 30 miles an hour. It's about 30 and a half miles an hour for the 65 kilometres yesterday, and that again is a fraction over 40 miles. So if you could extend that, you testers who like time trialling in England, it means that he would have done something well inside of 1 hour 40 for 50 miles. He was averaging over 30 miles an hour. In fact, Fignon was absolutely staggered. I made my apologies yesterday in the commentary. They're watching the pink jerseys here driving along, because their next act has to be when they get to the finish. There are 20 seconds for first man over the line, and then there's bonuses down as well in time for the other riders in that leading group. The three of them will get time bonuses, but they're more interested in the points bonuses today, and this being a flatter stage, there's a hatful of points on this particular stage today. 35 points, 30, 26, 24 and so on. So what Once they've got to do is to try and get Jalabert, who's got an extremely quick sprint indeed, in with a chance of getting back those vital points that are separating him from Mazepin. So they missed it on the points underneath that special PMU sprint after 203 kilometres, and now then with those 4 points separating Museo from the green jersey of Jalabert, he now has that. There we are then, Perini from Andro and Madio in third spot. So we've got an Italian, an American and a Frenchman, 1, 2 and 3. That's a few more vital seconds, a few more vital points as far as they're concerned, but they're all fairly well down the general classification, no great concern. So I think this is going to aid Pascal Lino in the yellow jersey and Indurain to recover from yesterday's efforts for this battle for the green jersey that's going on. And you can see the green jersey back there in the bunch from the front, Jalabert, the Frenchman, riding for the Once team. So that's going to help, I think, the rider in the yellow jersey, Lino, to have a bit of a rest yesterday. Rode his heart out, did Lino, to finish in 6th place in the time trial. So there we are, there's confirmation of the points position at the moment, 134 to 128, so that says 6 points difference. So we've got a different set of figures on my calculation here. I better take the official chart, I suppose, and so with all the Once team virtually up the front, hovering near the front too. See Gianni Bugno likes to keep out of trouble there. The chap with the glasses, the long spindly legs on the usual bike, that's Zilla. And over on the far side, a world champion. Fancy being pitchforked in at his tender age to be riding alongside the world champion, but he's been riding extremely well indeed this year, as Zuller. And they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of their 9 men. And I could just do a flash of the green jersey as well. So all of the Once team are up on the front. So we'll give them a rundown. Dir Sabala, Xavier Aldanando, Stephen Hodge, Philippe Louvio and Torres Martinez, Neil Stevens, Johnny Veltz, Alex Zuller, all looking after the affairs of Laurent Jalabert, while these men in the front are searching for that speed which will keep them away from the main group and a chance of winning this stage down into Strasbourg. Here they go, going at a fair rate of knots, and the riders, certainly I say after yesterday at time trial. Fignon commented afterwards, because you may remember on the coverage we did yesterday in Eurosport, Fignon came into the finishing straight just behind. It was still 27 seconds. He came into the finishing straight just behind Indurain, and I made the mistake of thinking he'd started 2 minutes in front. He had, in fact, started 6 minutes in front. Well, he said when Indurain came past him in the time trial, Indurain was going at 53 kilometres per hour into the headwind along that dual carriageway. So 10 kilometres to go. You imagine that, 53 kilometres per hour into a headwind. That was Indurain at 32.5 miles an hour. Fignon looked down on his computer just to check it, the speed at which Indurain came up to him. He couldn't believe it, and he managed to hang on to the run into the finish. And Fignon said that going down the finishing straight, by now with the finishing banner in sight, with Indurain really winding it up, they were doing 60 kilometres an hour. That's 37.5 miles per hour, and that's what gave Indurain the time trial yesterday. Absolutely brilliant performance. I expect many of you caught up with that, but I just thought I'd put it into context context at the speed at which Indurain was going yesterday, and now has shown enormous strength. The rest of the riders did great rides, but that was just phenomenal, and it puts him up on the level with great time trials like Fausto Coppi, Jacques-Jean Coutil, Eddie Merckx and Bernard Hinault, to be able to ride at that sort of rate of knots under what were pretty tough days. If you look outside Indurain's time at the rest of the riders, they were all doing respectable times because he was 3 minutes faster than anybody else. The rest of the group all did good times, all packed together, because that Indurain was head and shoulders above the rest. But no, take nothing away from Pascal Lino. He rode extremely well throughout the whole of the time trial yesterday, as we're watching the Onse team still in the pink, you might say, searching to get Jalabert in contention for that final sprint today. One of the chaps who really suffered yesterday in the time trial, see how Bugnol's taking a little bit of an easy ride with this one at the moment. Yesterday, Chiappucci started in second place as he went through the, in second place going through the 22-kilometre point. He dropped down to 5th by the time he came to the 37-kilometre time point. By the 56-kilometre, he was 9th, and poor old Chiappucci finished in 18th spot overall. So he took quite a bit of pasting into that very strong headwind, whereas De La Cuevas from the Benesto team, who started 19th at the 22-kilometre point, worked his way up to finish in second spot. So it's very much a matter of judgment yesterday, and I must say Stephen Rose judged it perfectly right. He was 5th, then 4th, then 6th, then 7th at each of the time checks, and Stephen had the courage to go away yet again today with this group here, which has now been allowed a new lease of life by the main field following the recapture of Bugnol and Roche. So it's very much the top riders know who they've got to watch out for. I think Carrera might be quite happy to let this one drift away, because Perini is an extremely quick sprinter indeed, though he's going up onto the front now, and I think we'd like to see him doing a fairly good ride. Carrera so far have been having some extremely good success, because they had Girotto finish 3rd on the Bordeaux stage. We had Carrera go 2nd in the team time trial. Bontempi won the stage from Nozon-sur-Oise to Vasqual. Chiappucci went and got himself a 2nd place into Brussels. Roche got a 2nd place into Valkenburg, and Girotto got us a 3rd place into Koblenz. So the Carrera on a bit of a high at the moment. They got Perini away with it, this one, and here yet again the Onse team driving along here, trying to catch them. They could just about see down there one of the tail-end motorcycles, but they still haven't got it in sight yet a while. Most of these riders preferring, as you can see, to wear the what they call hairnet style of crash hat. Goodness knows why they call it hairnet, but they're the track hats that many of us have ridden over the years rather than the bone dome type. And Onse on the front, driving to try and chase this group here, who are getting very close. There's Perini trying to ease his way off the front. So this is a great race, and we've got a break coming up. Please stay with us after this next announcement. Is only something like about 10 seconds as the field are beginning to get close to that breakaway group, and Fondriest now deciding that it's about time that he clocked off from them, because the gap has come down. They're very visible indeed. That's quite surprising, because I would have thought that he would have waited for the main group to come up with giving Ludwig a chance. But what you can't understand at the moment is a lot of riders are riding for themselves. You see, Panasonic were going to announce on the rest day in a couple of days' time that they were going to have a new sponsor of the team, because they stopped sponsoring it this year, and the press conference is being cancelled, and there's some concern that maybe a sponsor isn't in the offing. And so many riders now are trying to show that they are worth taking on for other teams. And so what are normally team tactics are often now, if you're not guaranteed a contract next year, one or two riders are beginning to try and show themselves for publicity in the greatest publicity machine that cycling has ever got, the Tour de France. And here Fondriest, the ex-world champion, who decided it's about time he went for one of these long breaks with the field. Once they catch that group, then they're going to sit up, get the breath back. All due credit to Onse, the way they pull them back. But Fondriest has seen the right thing. I'll see that's a wonderful ride by the Onse team, who've come into this race without Marino Lejarreta, the Ironman of cycling, who keeps riding the Tour of Spain, the Tour of Italy and the Tour de France. He'll do it no more after that sad crash in April this year has put him out of racing, I think, forever as such. So he's going to have to retire. Mauri, the winner of the Tour of Spain a couple of years ago from the Onse team, is not riding with them either. So this young team has done a tremendous job. You see what happens now? Nobody's certain if anybody's in front, but they've sussed up down the road that Fondriest is there and driving a wedge through. They've gone now. The Onse team have got to go yet again. Well, that really, I think they're going to say, oh, hell, we thought we got it stuck, but they have. Luc Leblanc there in the blue, white and red French colours as the National Road Champion of France. 90 points at the moment, but Leblanc hasn't got a real tremendous sprint, so I'm going to think now that we'll look back down for the National Championship of Belgium, because Museo is the one who's thrusting and trying to get and can maintain that green jersey. We originally had just 4 points separating them. We looked a bit more than that when we had the last chart up there, so I think the moment of glory for Fondriest has gone, and all due credit to the riders in the pink. Once have done a magnificent job. This young team here have really given us something to applaud, with the crowd here cheering them on. Just 3 kilometres left to go as the careers take up the front. Well, it's not certain at all that Jalabert can get this one, because we haven't seen Abdou Jafarov yet go for a sprint. We saw Bontempi slide off the front and get a stage. But we're going to watch out now for the Tashkent Tank, who, and there, see, look at Museo in the black, yellow and red jersey. He's right behind the green jersey. At the moment, because the interim sprints we've had so far, Museo technically will take that green jersey. He's got to stay on Jalabert's wheel. He's got to stay like he's doing now. He can drop back behind him, but I think he'll stay just there, try to tip him to the post, and even if he comes in just behind him, he'll only lose a couple of points. So that's what Museo's doing now, sticking right on the wheel of the green jersey of Jalabert, who looks like he might well lose it, despite that tremendous teamwork that the boys in pink have done. It's now up to Jalabert to outfox Museo, to beat him in the sprint. Not only to beat him, but to go something like about 3 men past him when we come down into the finishing straight in Strasbourg. And still again, the pink jerseys wanging away around the corner on the way in towards this finish in Strasbourg. Going to come thundering down the Avenue de la Paix. Well, there's no peace in this race, I can tell you. Yesterday, the time trial finished in the square of the Martyrs, and now we're coming down the Avenue of Peace, and still a battle rages here in this race. And on the front, surprisingly enough, we're beginning to get PDM come through. Well, PDM haven't really got a sprinter of note, I wouldn't have thought, so they're going to try and, I think, just wind it up and try and slip off the front. Every man for himself, too, again with PDM, because they are not certain about their chance of getting a sponsor next year. Van Poppel is their sprinter extraordinaire, a previous green jersey wearing the Tour de France. So Van Poppel would be looking for a chance, but he hasn't got on the right wheel, and still the pink jersey driving on. Still these lads from Once are determined to get Jalabert in contention. See there, Jalabert, 1, 2, 3 back. Museo glued to his wheel like he got super glue sticking there. Zuller on the front is a very, very strong rider indeed. He's keeping the pace up, and just behind him, Hodge, who's always a lead-out man for Jalabert. Looking back, Hodge has always been driving just about 5th, 6th from the front, so he can give him a very good lead out. On the far side then, Yakimov is coming through. He'll be leading out Ludwig. So as they swing round, then Hodge still there trying to protect Jalabert. These riders, then they come up there. There is Ludwig on Yakimov's wheel. Yakimov is going. Ludwig is on his wheel. For the first time, perhaps we might see the big heavy hitters. And moving up behind Ludwig's wheel is Museo on the far side. Abdou Jafarov is going, and he comes sideways. Always goes to the right. This is dangerous, because that's the way he goes across. He's doing it again. Abdou Jafarov and Van Poppel alongside him, and they come to the line then. Jalabert, Abdou Jafarov, I think, and Van Poppel puts his arm up. That might be Van Poppel just ahead then of Abdou Jafarov. I think Jalabert was third on the far side. I didn't see, unfortunately, in that sprint. Let's get an action replay of where Museo finished, but what a sprint that was with Abdou Jafarov. He always veers to the right. Anybody who knows Abdou Jafarov, I watched him as an amateur in Harrogate in the milk race some years ago. We were out there with the cameras on. I thought, ye gods, he's going to demolish the whole of the field. Here we are then. Jalabert on the right, Abdou Jafarov in the centre, Van Poppel down here, Ludwig behind. There's Museo. Now, Museo has to go and stay just behind Jalabert. He's done it, so on the line then, Van Poppel from Jalabert, that's it, and I think Abdou Jafarov second, Jalabert third. Museo must be in fourth spot. That should be enough for Museo to keep to take the green jersey off Jalabert. But what a sprint, and Van Poppel judged that one to perfection. So we've seen the men who've got this gift to be able to come out with 100 metres to go and accelerate at well over 40 miles an hour. So Museo certainly will get that green jersey. He's been battling all day today at the interim sprints, except the last one when they couldn't get up to that leading group. But so Strasbourg has seen the sprinters. We we've had one of those phenomenal heart-stopping sprints down the finishing straight. You just have to be able to throw caution to the wind to be a sprinter like that, and we've seen one at long last. He's taken 10 stages before we see a sprint, and Mr. Cipollini wasn't there. He's probably back at home watching on television and wishing he was there, but there we go. Slow motion replay. We're going to take a short break and come back to this in just a moment. In fact, well, that's it. Slow motion action replay, and that was a cracker, wasn't it? Come back in a moment. Victor Rostrom, and there Abdul-Jabbar Jalabert, Museo. They haven't managed to place him back since that, but certainly Ludwig was poised in there to try and get himself some vital success. We didn't quite make it. As I said, we came down the road de la Piste, the Piste Road, and of course Ludwig, record-breaking number of stage victories in the Piste race. He didn't get this one. Van Poppel got it for PDM. Well, the sprinters, I suppose they'll go back now to their various teams and breathe a sigh of relief, because they've had a pretty rough time so far, and this beautiful city has seen the big men come out, and we've seen a fantastic finish. Still the green jersey, it sounds if Museo is going to take that one. We're actually here overnight in Strasbourg. The stage tomorrow, Strasbourg-Mulhouse, takes the riders on 249 kilometres as Lino comes back up here, and then the following day we're going to have a rest day, and I think this lad has earned it tremendously. He is still all smiles. I think, I won't say he had an easy ride today, because they're clopping on at just under 40 kilometres per hour, just outside 25 miles per hour. On the stage tomorrow, though, he's going to have to really work hard to keep that yellow jersey before we hit the rest day, because we have got a first category climb up the Grand Ballon before we get to Mulhouse. And before he gets there, he's going to have, there's confirmation of the position. It's still saying as it was this morning. They all came in that main group. But tomorrow then, we've got 4 third category climbs, 2 second category and 1 first category climb. Only a couple of sprints for the green jersey. One after we start just at 19.5 kilometres, and then one right from the end with 11 kilometres to go. So the sprinters, I think, have had their day at the moment. It's all down to tactical riding tomorrow. Vanessa did a wonderful job to pull back Roche and Bunyo, who at least tried to get away and to win the stage and pull back time as such. So this wonderful city has seen a tremendous sprint finish here today, but the yellow jersey still on the shoulders of Pascal Lino. Let's see if they've managed to resolve who was in 4th. Yes, Ludwig, I thought it was in the position we got, and Fidanza just behind him. So Ludwig, previous green jersey winner in the Tour de France a couple of years ago, got that one. And Claudio Chiappucci, well, I must say, everybody's favourite. He died a bit yesterday in the time trial, which is not noted as being his best strength anyway. But Claudio Chiappucci, all smiles, and there he is in the polka dot jersey. I think tomorrow he's going to defend that one in fine form. Frank was unfortunate today. He just couldn't match Chiappucci on the short, sharp climbs. But the battle rage tomorrow, and Chiappucci, who was last year's victor in the Kingdom Managed competition, smiles here as far as he's concerned. And there we have the points position, just 3 away from Veronica. Ciccoli back behind him with the other riders. Poised, even Indram has got 20 points as here Van Poppel is giving his verdict on today's racing. So PDM then did quite a useful job. I saw one of their lead-out men begin to wind the pace up early on. I didn't think Van Poppel had got himself positioned nicely, but he obviously found the right little niche to come through. And all credit, I think, to Abdul-Jabbar to pop up. We haven't seen him all the way. These fellows hide themselves in the main pack, and so the well, let me out. Yakimov up on the rostrum. That was for the European Community Sprint that Ekimov got earlier on in the race today. So that's something at least Panasonic have got, even if Ludwig didn't manage to get the sprint and take this victory today at Strasbourg. So every time we've been up on the edge of France, we've had these European Community Sprints on the way down in towards the finish, and that one going to Yakimov, the 20-kilometre points champion of the world, also a previous amateur and professional pursuit champion of the world. He's not been selected to ride in the CIS team in the World Championships on the road for professionals, and on that basis he's saying at the moment, Yakimov, he's not going to ride on the track either. So that would be a disappointment if we don't see Yakimov in action. As Gianni Bugno here perhaps trying to explain to all and sundry why it was that he and Roche decided to clop off today. Well, Bugno on the general classification 4:39 in 6th place, Roche in 4th place, 4 minutes 15 seconds down. They weren't going to get away with that one. As coming out here, a man who, as I say already today, sprinting on the intermediate sprints, getting himself in that green jersey. Bad luck then to Laurent Jalabert as Johan Muzio exchanges his national championship jersey of Belgium for that green jersey yet again. It's been switching backwards and forwards. He wore the green jersey into Belgium. He then switched back into his national championship jersey when Jalabert got it back again. Now it's back on the shoulders of Muzio. And tomorrow, I say, an early sprint just after the start, another sprint at the end as well. And then, of course, I should think with the last big climb of the day coming very close in towards the finish, that Muzio is going to ride very hard, and Jalabert to have yet again a battle for that green points jersey. I don't think we're likely to see a brunch sprint tomorrow, but you never know in this game, because the big first category climb tomorrow comes as the riders have covered 196 kilometres. That's 53 kilometres from the finish, and I think that might well split them up, and the green jerseys could have to wait yet another day for their battles, because I think it's been down to the mountain climbers tomorrow to do well in the race. Well, we hope you'll join us tomorrow then on this Strasbourg Mulhouse stage. David Duffield here saying, I hope you enjoyed again Eurosport's coverage of the Tour de France. It's one of the best races I remember, so please do come back tomorrow for more action on Eurosport.